Now, large language models such as GPT and ChatGPT are very, very powerful. They open up a ton of possibilities to build absolutely incredible apps very, very quickly. But what I believe is holding a lot of people back from exploiting these models to their full potential is that you still need to be relatively technical. You need to be able to look up the APIs. You need to be able to put some code together. You need to understand how to parse the responses. And so as a result, people are not exploiting these models to their full potentials. But I have really good news for you. I found a tool that allows you to build apps with large language models quickly and easily. And this tool is an absolute joy to use, even for beginners. And the best part of it all is that this tool is open source and 100% free. And so in today's video, I'm going to be telling you what the tool is. I'm going to be explaining to you how to use it. I'm going to be showing you how you can build some apps with it. And then a little bit later in the video, we're going to be building a really useful app and even integrating it with a no-code builder such as FlutterFlow. Now, as always, all the apps and all the resources that you're going to see me build in today's video, you will be able to view and or clone from my Patreon page. And you can learn more about our amazing Patreon community using the link just below the video. Now, the tool that we're going to be using today is called Dust, and it's available at Dust.tt. And so this is their homepage. And if you scroll down, you will see that this tool allows you to access things like internal data. You can build all kinds of interesting chat tools, and you can also build these apps using powerful workflows. And this is the biggest selling point of this tool, is that you can simply drag and drop and create very, very powerful apps. Now, this tool is open source and it's also 100% free. So go ahead and sign up for your free account and you can log in. So I'm already logged in using my free account. And once you're logged in, you're going to have three tabs here. Okay, so you're going to have data sources, you're going to have your workspace, and you're going to have developers. Okay, and on this developers tab, this is where you're going to be creating your app. So let's go ahead and create a very, very simple AI app that leverages a large language model. So I'm going to click on create app. I'm just going to call it app 1. I can write a description if I want, and then I can set my visibility. So I'm just going to leave it on public and hit create. And now you're going to be redirected to a screen that looks something like this. And this is where you can build your own app. And you do that chiefly by creating these blocks here. So for instance, if we click on add a block, you have all of these options that you can add as components to your app. Okay, and so this may seem a little overwhelming at first, but this is actually very, very simple and very, very easy. And so let's go ahead and create a very, very simple AI app. So we're going to select input here, and then we're going to add a block, and this block is going to be LLM. And so we've just created a very, very simple app with two components, an input component and a model component. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to configure our input here. So we're going to click on create data set. And once you do that, you're going to be on this page here. And this is where you can configure the type of data that you're going to be sending into the LLM. So let's say we're building an app that's going to recommend gifts to various people based on some of their information, such as an interest and profile. So in that case, what we want to do is we want to create a new data set called people here. And in this data set, we can have three pieces of schema. So for instance, we can have name, we can have age, and we can also add interests. Okay. And here you can configure the type of data. So for name, this is going to be a string, age is going to be a number, and interest is going to be a string. And here you can configure various pieces of data. So for this app, I'm only going to use one entity. So I'm going to remove these right here, and I'm going to create a sample person that I'm going to feed into the large language model and get some recommendations in return. So let's say this is going to be Mike. Let's say he's 35 years old, and let's say the interests are photography, taking long walks on the beach, and travel. Next, we click on create, and we've just created our first data set here. So we can go back to specification, And we can select this data set here, okay? Next, we're going to configure our LLM. So we're going to click on Setup Provider. And once you do that, you're going to be redirected to this page here where you can select your model provider. So I'm going to select OpenAI, click on Setup, and now I need to paste my API key. Okay? And I'm going to go into my OpenAI API key dashboard, and I'm going to create a new key right here. And I'm just going to call it Dust here, give it a label Dust. And I'm going to copy this key, go back to Dust, paste this key right here, and enable it. Okay. And so we've just configured an LLM that we can use. Obviously, you have more options here, right? You have all of these other model providers that you can use, but OpenAI is probably going to be the one that you're going to be using. Next, you can go back to your app here, select provider, OpenAI, select the model. We're going to select GPT-4. And now you have to give it a prompt, okay? And for the prompt, we're going to be using a prompt such as this one. You are an expert at choosing birthday gifts for people. Please recommend a great birthday gift for people name, age, people age with the following interests, people interest. And as you can see, this is actually a placeholder that is going to automatically fill in with our data. And so if you go back to our people data set here, you see how we have age, interests, and name. And that is what we need to be using here. We need to say people, because this is called people. And then we need to use a field that we have defined here. And then when you run this model, it's automatically going to replace this with the actual data. Okay, so at this point, our first AI app is complete. Okay, we have the input and we have the model here. So now I just clicked run and it's running right now. And so it ran here and then it ran here. And as you can see, it's a success here and success here. So if you open this up, you can see that it got the information correctly. Okay, we only have one person in the data set. You know, this is the information, so it saw it correctly. And then if you go into success, we have success, and as a result, we got this response here. Considering Mike's interest in photography, beach walks, and travel, here's some great birthday gift ideas, professional camera, etc., etc. So it recommended one product, a professional camera. If Mike does not already own one, a professional or semi-professional camera would be a good one. Now, I like this recommendation, but I want this model to be more specific. I wanted to maybe look at Amazon's bestseller list, and I wanted to use that information to recommend specific products for Mike. And so let's see how easy it is to do just that. Now, fortunately, this is really, really easy to do, because now all we need to do is we need to add another module. So if you click this plus sign here, we can select another module, and there's all of these things that we can add into this app. Okay, and the best module for what we're trying to do would be this browser module, because this module downloads the HTML or text content of a page on the web. Okay, so we're going to select this module. Next, I'm going to click this up arrow here to bring it above the LLM model, but below the input. Now, once you add this module, you need to set up your browserless API. So we're going to click here and we're going to scroll down and we're going to set this up browserless. Okay, so it wants this browserless API key, and browserless is a service that allows you to scrape different websites on the internet. And so we're going to go into browserless right here. This is my account. You can sign up for your free account, and we're going to copy the key. They have a generous free plan that you can use for these apps. Okay, so we're going to click on setup right here. We're going to paste our key, click on test succeeded, enabled. And now if we go back to our app right here, you can see that we have this module here completely enabled. It is functioning. The only thing that we need to do is we need to give it a URL to parse. And so I found the bestsellers page here. We're going to copy this page here, go back and paste it in here. I'm going to leave the CSS selector on body because I want to get all the text that it has. And now what we're going to do is we're going to run it so that we can see if it's able to fetch this information properly. So I'm going to click run, and now it's fetching it. Okay, let's wait a few moments here. And now, as you can see, this has come back with success. So if you click on this, you can see that the data that it got. So if you click on data, you can see all the results. And this is the text and you can click on show all, and you will see all the products that are best sellers. And now, because it's able to get this content, we can include this in our prompt as well. And so if you take a look at this module, it's called web content, and we have data, 0 results, 0 text. So you have to remember that. And now if you go back to your LLM here, what we are going to do is we're going to include another statement in this prompt. We're going to say, please make sure to get your recommendations from this here, okay? And we're gonna say web content, data, 0 response, 0 text. I think that's correct. Let's double check. Web content, data, 0 results, 0 text. Okay, that should be good. Web content, data, 0 response, 0 text. Okay, and so now our prompt says you're an expert at choosing birthday gifts for people. Please make sure to get your gift recommendations from this list here. And now we're pasting in the entire bestsellers list from Amazon, okay? And so let's go ahead and run this newly improved app, and let's see if the results that the LLM comes up with are going to be better than the results we got in the previous run, okay? So we're going to click on run. Now, we did get an error, and it says here that web content data response text did not work. And actually, I made a mistake. This should be results. All right, so let's run it again. Click on run, and let's see if that works. We have success. Click here, and here's what it says. Based on Mike's interest in photography, beach walks, and travel, I'd recommend the following gifts. Apple AirTag 4-pack from the electronics department. Okay, these small devices can attach to important items like camera, bags, or keys and use them for etc. etc. Okay, so this is what it came up with. Okay, so now if we open this up, we open up this whole list right here, and we search for AirTags. And as you can see, we have AirTags here, and this is the best sellers in electronics, right? It's the #1 bestseller in electronics, okay? And so now instead of recommending just any random products, we're actually feeding it data using this specific browser list module that goes out, fetches the data, and feeds it into the prompt. And so now we have a much more precise gift recommendation. Now, we are only getting 1 gift recommendation. So I'd like to get more gift recommendations. So let's go ahead and ask it to recommend 5 gifts. Please recommend 5 awesome birthday gifts for name, age with the following interests. Before we run this model now, you want to make sure that you increase the max token. So I'm going to increase this to 2048, which is going to increase the amount of data that we get back. So we're going to run this now, and let's see the responses that we get. All right, so we got a response. Let's go ahead and open this up. And what do we have? Okay, so these are the 5 gift recommendations. Apple AirPods Pro, Stanley Quencher, stainless steel, tumbler with lid, Apple AirTag 4-pack, tire inflator, subscription to photography magazine. And let's see if these products were actually recommended from the Amazon bestsellers list. So there's the AirPods Pro. And if we come over here, we have the Stanley. I think that was there as well. And there it is, #2. And inflator, tire inflator. Okay, and there's tire inflator, #6. And probably photography magazine is also there as well, but I'm not sure. Let's take a look. No, photography magazine is not on the list. Okay, so this was something that the model came up with itself. But the rest of these gift ideas actually came from this list. And how cool is that? You just built a very, very simple app that actually pulls data from a third party, Amazon in this case, feeds it into the prompt and gives us back the results. Now, we're not done yet. There's still many, many things that we can do to improve this app. More specifically, we can guide the model to come up with answers based on the examples that we specify. So if we go back up here, what we can do is we can click this plus button, and we can actually create a data set here. We can load a data set and output its elements in an array, typically used to seed few shot prompts. A few shot prompt is a prompt that has several examples that tell the model how to behave. And so let me show you how you can do that. Now, as I was working, looks like they changed a little bit the UI. So don't be alarmed that you see the UI change with this left pane here. This was just updated. In any case, what we want to do here is we want to add examples right after input. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to say data. Okay. And now we need to select a data set. We have one data set, but we want to create a new example data set. Okay. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to call this examples. And so in this section, what I want to do is I want to give this model some examples. Okay. I want to give it the input and I want to give it the expected output, and I can give it as many examples as I want, but I'm only going to give a couple of examples. Okay. So we're going to delete that, and now we have these two pieces of data. And so I'm going to create my schema and I'm going to say name, I'm going to say age, I'm going to add interest, and then I'm going to click here and I'm going to say recommendation. Okay, so this is string, number, string, string. And so here I'm going to give it two examples, right, with two different people, and for each person I'm going to give it some recommendations that I want the model to kind of along the same lines. Okay, so I'm going to say James, whatever, age 35, and I'm going to fill in some interest. So interest is working out, long walks on the beach, photography, videography, listening to music. And let's first create another persona, and then we're going to come back and fill in the recommendations. Age 25, interest is sightseeing, traveling, and I'm going to say reading right here. Now, let's think about some of the recommendations that we want this model to do. Okay, so if a person likes to work out, videography, listening to music, what kind of recommendations should the model make to them? Okay, so there's going to be AirPods. Okay, so I'm going to say AirPods, AirPods Pro, videography. So I'm going to say Sony A7S3. That's a popular camera. I'm also going to say AirPods Max. Actually, I'm going to add another interest, programming, and I'm going to add MacBook Pro 14, 16. Now for Jamie, sightseeing, traveling, reading. So for recommendations, I'm going to put travel book. For reading, let's go ahead and let's go and see if we can also add a National Geographic magazine here. So I'm going to say National Geographic magazine. Now, is there anything else that we want this model to recommend based on this persona right here? So we're going to go back and let's see. What else do we want this model to pick up? And I'm also going to add a camera here. So Sony ZV-E1, right? Which is more of a portable version of a camera that's more suitable for traveling. Okay. We're going to click on create here. And now we have examples. Okay. So now we can go back to our app here and we need to alter the prompt so that the examples are going to be included in the prompt as well. And what we can do is we can list the examples that we've included right here in this section of the prompt. Right after that, we include the web content, but before the command where we tell the prompt what to do. And the way that you include these examples is by doing something like this. So you're going to have this for loop here, and this for loop is going to be inside these curly braces percentage, percentage curly braces. You're going to have this for something and for, and here you're going to list the data. And so I'm going to say for E in examples, and that's going to loop through the various examples. We only have two examples. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say name, age, interest, recommendations. And so if we go back to our examples data set, we have age, interest, name, recommendations. And so we're going to fill that in: E name, E age, interest, E recommendation. And here I'm just going to say here are some examples, and then it's going to list the examples here, and then it's going to ask the model to recommend. So now we're actually telling the model how we want it to behave by giving it examples. We're going to go back up, select our data set, right, that we created, this examples right here. And now we're going to click on run. And now we're going to wait and see what happens. So everything is a success. Looks like this is working because it's taking some time, and let's see what happens. Okay, it says success. Let's take a look at the results. All right, so this is our new prompt. We still have that information from Amazon, but if we scroll down, you should see that it says now Here are some examples: name James, age 35, interest, recommendations, name, interest, recommendations. So these examples are now part of the prompt. And if we go and take a look at the response, and remember, right now we're feeding it people, but inside people we have Mike with these interests and this age. So we're only feeding it one person. We can feed multiple people if we want. And having that in mind, this is what it's recommending: this camera, this waterproof hiking boots, travel book, National Geographic. And this time it's also recommending a GoPro camera, which is a great camera for like on the go, for traveling, lots of action things happening. And so now it's looking at this profile, it probably sees travel, and it remembers that right here, there's this sightseeing, traveling, and I specified National Geographic magazine. And in this case, it also is recommending to Mike National Geographic magazine because of travels. And so these examples do influence how a model behaves. And obviously, the more examples you give it, the more information it's going to take into account when coming up with a response. And so if you give it 50 examples, it's going to learn how to recommend based on the personas in those examples. So the more examples you give it, the more the model learns, and the more the responses are going to be similar to the data in your examples. Now, before we continue, I want to quickly explain to you guys what exactly is happening right now, okay? So here's the user, and the way that most people interact with LLMs, GPT, ChatGPT, is they have an input and they give it a prompt. They say, do this, do that, but there's so many things that you can do, right? Which is why this tool helps us out a lot and makes the whole process a lot more seamless and a lot easier, right? Because apart from the input, we can send examples, right? We can send external data. And once we get an answer, we can do post-processing, okay? And this is just scraping the top of the surface, right? There's so many things that you can do once you get in there, right? There's so many other modules that you can add. All right, so now that you guys have a better idea how it works, let's go ahead and jump back in and let's try to improve our app. Now, there's still one more thing that I want to do for this app, and that is, if you take a look at the response right here, right, we're getting a lot of things here, right? We're getting the prompt, the text, we're getting a ton of things, when all we really need is just this text part. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another block, a post-processing block that takes this whole response from an LLM and just gives us the final text, okay? So I'm going to come here, click plus, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this code block, okay? And here you can write a little piece of code that processes one of these previous modules here. And so I'm going to call this code right here. And here what we're going to do is we're going to say return env state. Actually, this should be state with all lowercase letters. So if you run it now, you should see just the text that we need. So if we come over here, this is all we are getting, just the responses, okay? And so now that we built this data, we can actually run it by specifying our input. And you can do that by clicking run. And here's where you specify your own input, okay? So you're going to specify the data that you want this model to work on, and it's going to ignore the input that you specified when you were building the model, because that's only for testing. And so let's say I say age 55, interests, listening to music, reading, relaxing, name is John. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute this. And now, as you can see, this input becomes the input here, right? If you take a look, this is now the input. Okay, so it's executing this step here, which is the LLM part. Okay, and this is the result we got. Apple AirPods Pro, Kindle Paperwhite for reading, queen size sheet bed for relaxing, chilling. Okay, comfortable bedding can make all the difference. For someone who enjoys relaxing and chilling, Time Magazine subscription. As a reading enthusiast, John would appreciate the subscription. And then we have a Stanley Flawless Stainless Steel Vacuum Insulated Tumbler. Okay, this tumbler will keep John's beverages hot or cold for hours, etc., etc. Okay, and so how cool is that? We just built an app that leverages an LLM to do birthday gift recommendations. Very, very cool. But we're not done yet. Let me show you the best part of this tool. So if you go back to specifications and you click on deploy, what you can do is you can actually access this app that we built using an API. And what this means is that you can build another app that's going to have a different UI or the UI that you want, and that app is going to connect to these workflows that we just built using an API. Okay, so this is our API configuration here. Okay, and before you can use it, you need to create an API key. So if you scroll down, you need to click here, create a secret key. I already created the key here. And so what I can do is click copy right here, copy this whole thing, come up to my favorite API testing tool of choice, which is Rapid API. It's absolutely free for Macs. You can find different tools for Windows or whatever platform that you're using. Then I can go to File, Import, Text, paste all this, and now I have an API call right here. Now I want to go into body. I want to fix a couple of things. I want to remove these ends, these new lines here. They shouldn't be there. Remove all that. And now I can click on JSON and go into inputs. And here I need to specify the inputs to my app. And remember, we have name, click on plus, we have age, and we have interests. Okay, so now I can say name James. Age is whatever, 35. Interests are, travel, photography. Okay. And then all I need to do is execute this. So I'm going to execute this, and I'm going to wait a couple of moments for this model to finish. And this is my response. So if we open this up, we have results, index, 3 items. And the first item here contains the recommendation. So in this case, we got a Sony Alpha A6400. GoPro Anchor Power Core, which is great for probably traveling, lightweight camera mount, Lonely Planet's Ultimate Travel. Okay, so we have some nice recommendations, okay? All right, so now that we've tested and we know that this API access works perfectly, we can build an app that's going to access our LLM using this API and display the data. And so here I built a very, very simple FlutterFlow app that asks the user to input name, age, and interest. And here it's going to display the result. The only thing that we need to do is we need to add our API in here. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to say add an API call. I'm going to call it LLM call. I'm going to do a post. I'm going to come back here, copy this, paste this here, go into body. Body is JSON, delete all that, copy all this, paste it in here. And these 3 need to be variables. Okay, so first I want to add this call. I'm going to go into variables and I'm going to add 3 variables. Okay, name, age, interest. This is going to be an integer and this is going to be a string. We're going to click save, go back to body, fill in our variables here. This is name right here. Drag and drop this right there. Age right here. And interest right there. All right, save. Next, we also need to add a header. So we need this authorization header here. We're going to add this header, paste this, copy that. This is content type application JSON. So content type application JSON. And this is authorization. Okay, save. Let's go into response and test. Fill out the information here. Let's do test API call. And let's see if it works. All right, we got a 200 success. We got a response. Go into recommended, scroll down and find the content that we want. So this is what we want. Click this, go back to selected. And now we have the exact content that we need, which is this content right here. We're going to give it a name, response, hit save. And now we can use this data in our app. So now we can go back here, select this button, wire it to our API call, add an action. API call name, this is the call, add the variables, add all of them, name, interest, we're gonna say name is widget state name, age is widget state age, and interest is, you guessed it, widget state interest, and this is gonna be the results here. And once we get a response back, we want to set our page state variable. You're gonna do state management, update page state. We have this answer and we're going to update it with the value that we get back from the API. JSON body, response confirm, and we want to rebuild the page. We're going to have a new value. And this is going to be the response right here. So we're going to go into page state answer. And so once you run it, hopefully this is where the result is going to be. Let's go ahead and run our app and let's see if it works. All right, so here's the app. Let's fill out the information, name, age, interest, working out. Click on go. Let's wait for this to run our LLM AMP and get the answer. All right, and this is the response we got. Apple AirPods Pro, tire inflator, portable air compressor, etc., etc. So as you can see, this app works just fine. Now we can also remove the height from the container so that it expands as much as it needs to. All right, and there are the birthday gift recommendations. So we have Hero 9 Black, DJI Mavic Mini, travel photography, portable charger, National Geographic Traveler magazine. Okay, and it's all nice and visible. Now there's still more things that you can do. You can simply head back to Dust, click this plus icon, and take a look at all of these modules that you can use in order to more effectively and efficiently interact with your LLM. Okay, so we have tons of other things that you can do, and so there are many more ways that you can improve this app. It's really up to you how far you want to take it. Now I'm going to be sharing with my amazing Patreon supporters this exact workflow as well as this app. And so if you're not yet a member of our truly amazing, rapidly growing Patreon community, then you definitely need to check it out and consider becoming a member, because not only will you get access to all the apps that I talked about in this video, but you also get access to pretty much all the other apps that I built on this channel. Tons and tons of other apps that do all kinds of interesting things. Plus, you're going to get access to some extra content, Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, and my masterclass series where I do a deep dive on a specific topic that the community votes on. And so if you're looking to step up your no-code knowledge, you definitely need to be a member of our incredible Patreon community. It's a no-brainer, really. And so hopefully I see you there. Now, if you guys want to see more videos on building apps with LLMs without writing a single line of code, check out this video next. You're gonna find it very, very valuable.